Charlotte spent years trying to solve one of its biggest problems, housing affordability. Part of that solution, remember, was encouraging developers to build more townhomes and condos. Well, now we're finally starting to see some of that impact. Not because buyers are disappearing, but because they suddenly have something they haven't had in years: options. More townhome communities are popping up across the city, and you can thank Charlotte's Unified Development Ordinance. I spoke with Mungo Homes' Matt Kearns about this last fall.
It has helped us provide what I'll call a middle housing. You know, we have several sites that before the UDO came in were zoned single family, where you could only do 3 homes per acre. The new UDO opened it up to take those same pieces of land and do duplexes and triplexes and realize some higher density. So we're going to come out and be able to offer an entry-level price point within 15-20 minutes of uptown Charlotte that just wouldn't have been possible before the UDO, at least in those pockets.
Yeah, the UDO became effective back in June 2023. It was designed, again, to encourage more housing choices beyond traditional single-family neighborhoods.
Not everyone wants to live in an apartment, and not everyone wants to live in a single-family home. And so there's other options for people with different types of family situations.
Well, 3 years later, those homes are hitting the market. According to new data from Canopy MLS, townhome inventory is up 21% from a year ago. Condo inventory, that's climbed, look at this, 23%. Overall buyer demand remains steady, with pending sales up nearly 8% from a year ago. And here's where it gets interesting. Even though buyers are still out there, they're no longer competing over a limited number of homes. But because there are more townhomes and condos to choose from, prices, they're beginning to soften just a bit. The median townhome price is down about 2.5% year over year. Condo prices, they have fallen nearly 5%. Meanwhile, single-family homes, those continue to get more expensive. They are up more than 3% year over year.
What we're seeing is folks who are in careers, folks who are in good paying, necessary jobs, often at salaried rates, that housing is just simply now out of reach for them.
So while single-family homes continue climbing in price, this may be one of the first signs the city's push for more housing options is starting to make a difference. More townhomes and condos on the market means buyers don't have to compete quite as fiercely as they did, say, just a couple of years back. Charlotte's housing shortage not over yet, though. After years of rising prices, though, we may finally be starting to see that shift. For many first-time buyers, the path to home ownership may no longer start with that single-family home. It may actually start with a townhome or a condo. And again, you have more options. That does it for us tonight. Encourage you to come back for WBTV News at 11. Of course, we'll see you back here